Welcome to episode 1 of the Show Day podcast for 2020. I'm Haydn, one of your hosts for the summer. I'm happy to be joined by my co-hosts, Thomas and Sam. We have lots planned for this episode, including an interview with Chris Holland, Executive Director of Inspire Arts and Music, parent organization of the Boston Crusaders Drum and Bugle Corps. We also will be debuting some segments in this episode that will become kind of the foundation for our podcasts each week. But to begin this episode, we'd like to tell you a little bit about ourselves so you can get to know us a little bit. Thomas, you can go first.
Hey, I'm Thomas. I live in Virginia, and I'm currently a rising senior. I was a BOA regional finalist last year, and I'm super happy to be here.
Sam?
Hey, I'm Sam. I play mellophone and synthesizer. I'm really happy to be here as well.
All right, great, thanks. Just a little bit about me. I'm a rising sophomore in the Allentown, Pennsylvania area. I'm a percussionist. As you guys said, I'm happy to be here as well. If you've tuned into the Show Day podcast in the past, that's awesome. If you are a first-time listener, that's even better. I've done this podcast by myself the past 2 summers, just covering the DCI tour as it happened, and that's been awesome. But this year, with no drum corps, I thought it would be great to explore this concept of the marching arts through the eyes of high school performers. So that's what we're here to do for you all summer long. We're going to try to provide the best interviews and best content we can for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, under the direction of Chris Holland, the Boston Crusaders!
Earlier this week, Thomas and I caught up with Chris Holland, Executive Director of the Boston Crusaders. All right, so first off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of came to be in the role you are today within the activity?
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm a product of drum corps. I marched in the Boston Crusaders for 9 years. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and my family was involved in drum corps. My older brother joined, and then I joined shortly after. So I was, obviously had an affinity and a great connection to the organization. I was not involved in high school marching band. I went to a college prep school where the music program was de minimis. So really all of my musical background came out of drum corps. I graduated, went on to UMass Amherst, was a mathematics major for a period of time. And at UMass, I met, a ton of drum corps, alums and participants from all different corps. And I ended up becoming a music major there at UMass Amherst. So I shifted gears and kind of caught up with my formal music education. And was teaching drum corps during that time period. Degree in music, was a high school band director for 4 years, and shifted gears again, went to law school and practiced law for about 10 years before I joined the board of directors at Inspire Arts and Music. It was from there I was approached by the board chair about taking over the full-time operations of Inspire Arts and Music. I did that in 2015, and this is what I do full-time, and I've been doing it full-time since then.
Cool. So, what are 3 things that actually go into running a drum corps? Like, not only during the traditional summer tour, but also during the off season and in times like this where there's so much uncertainty?
Well, probably I would say maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, drum corps shifted to being a year-round activity for a lot of reasons. Number one is I think drum corps organizations realized that in order to provide the highest quality experience for your members and staff, you needed to have full-time operations. Looking at revenue drivers, because the expense of running a drum corps is significant. Mm-hmm. So the off season is a chance to set up sustainable revenue systems for the drum corps. I think you saw that with the cadets when they kind of expanded to U.S. bands, and you saw that with Crown, with the Crown store. Yep. California corps have had bingo since way back. So I think that evolved the activity into kind of full year-round operations. And certain organizations have a larger infrastructure than others still. and thinking about long-term sustainability. And that's where you see the staying power of the drum corps that are still here. I'm sure you guys, being kind of students of drum corps, a bit, know that, 30 and 40 years ago, there were hundreds of drum corps out there.
Yeah.
The problem with that model was that, they weren't thinking about long-term sustainability.
Yeah. And I think one thing that really ties into another question we're going to give you shortly is that you mentioned 10 years ago where this model started to change and how drum corps started to be this year-long operation. And it's also when you see things like props and more intensive designs starting to be more the norm in the activity from top to bottom every year.
Yeah, for sure.
So leading into that question, since Boston made the jump from 12th to 6th in 2017, what has been your favorite production from the Corps the past 3 seasons, or what has been some things you love from those shows that the Corps has provided?
That's a tough question because it's like asking, who's your favorite child?
Yeah.
For the 2017 Corps, I have a great, affinity for that season, that group, that staff. Because, behind the scenes, the Corps had a lot of success. We've been in finals for 21 straight years, and we've been in the top 5 in the past. And 2016 was a challenge, and we, as you noted, fought and stayed in finals, but it was a really, it was a challenging summer. I'll say that we had a huge cross section of membership from 16 into 17 that stayed, on board. So to see those members be rewarded, obviously we brought in a whole new design team and staff, and that was a huge, move. But for me to kind of see those members be rewarded for sticking with it and staying with us 16 into 17, but also it was something new for all of us. I mean, some of my peers would ask, like, boy, how tough was that to just start fresh and bringing in all these new people? And I said, actually, it was easy because we all came to it excited, and we wanted to do something different. And people had left where they had a lot of success and a lot of great friendships and memories. And, they said, I'm going to come to Boston and we're going to do something completely different. So there was an excitement about it. It wasn't hard to get everybody on the same page because everyone came here under a certain, premise that, everyone's going to have an equal opportunity to kind of to be a stakeholder, to help guide the organization, to give me input on and off the field about, how we elevate what it is we do. One thing, and you mentioned props in the evolution of drum corps, certainly the year-round operations help facilitate that. So in 17, part of bringing in these really successful teachers, it also was bringing in their experiences and saying, hey, what did you do at this particular drum corps that really worked well and you were excited about? And vice versa. What did you do that, you couldn't stand and you'd love to change? So that 17 Corps, obviously the show, I think, was a perfect fit to see kind of the team work their magic and to at least be in the room while they kind of crafted wicked games. And to see, I had never seen, design in chemistry at that level. I think the Corps, really hit its stride in early July. I remember we went to Orlando, was the first show that actually got the Fire Flame to come up.
Nice.
That was a little bit earlier. We were going to save that for later on in the summer, but we decided, like, hey, things are going really well. The show's getting more and more exciting. The members are getting more and more comfortable performing. Let's go for it. And the reaction in Orlando was like, uh-oh, like I didn't expect that. People went pretty bananas. And it was exciting. So again, to see the members, that payoff, because with Orlando Drum Corps, all you really want to do is, be put in a position where if you work incredibly hard, you're going to perform a show that is exciting and that you can connect with your audience and you can drive people up onto their feet, and you get that emotional response back from them. And that supersedes anything else that happens. It was great that we had competitive success, but the members of that core every single night, ended their show with people on their feet and really appreciating what it is they were doing. So that really stands out to me about that summer, that particular group of members who stuck it out from 16 into 17. And then this new staff that, really worked well together. It was a lot of fun chemistry wise. 18, I think, that show was special because it had, so many layers and levels to it. And I think, to the range of emotion that went into that show. And it was certainly, I think, musically and visually more sophisticated than 17. I think the members that now were with us for multiple years continued to elevate their skill set. And the more competitive success you get, the more skill you attract in terms of people coming in. So, I think we were able to do things musically and visually that were advanced. And I think you translated, the guard was great in 17. I think they finished in third, by the way. But obviously in 18, we won. And I think one thing that'll always stand out to me about that summer was, the guard put themselves in a position, to potentially win, high guard at DCI. And the members, the percussion, the brass, like everybody knew it and everybody wanted that to happen for them. And they understood that, the show was in part written to feature, them as a strength. And they were exceptionally talented and worked incredibly hard. So when they achieved that goal, the entire drum corps, felt like, hey, we participated in that. And I remember saying to Gino Cipriani on finals night on the field when they announced that we had won the Zingali, trophy, I go, man, like, we're doing something right. Take a look around. The brass in the percussion kids on the field were elated,
Yeah.
And said, no matter what, I hope we have continued success. Let's always, keep this as, kind of, our benchmark. Like, when the percussion wins, the brass wins. When the brass wins, the guard and the percussion win. It's all about, you can't do it without, it's a total team effort and it's a total programming effort in order to feature a particular caption that's strong enough to win. And I love the fact that, the ending of the show continued to evolve. And that's very stressful. I give Brady Sanders and Michael Townsend and Keith Potter, the designers, and then all of the teachers a lot of credit, because when you put in new endings and you put in, kind of the disappearing drum corps and all that stuff, it's very stressful and you have to trust each other. And, it takes many weeks to kind of get that ready to be put in, and you're sacrificing rehearsal time. And, the teaching staff has to trust the design team, and the design team has to ultimately implement that ending and trust the teaching staff to be able to then make it look, perfect. When you're running out of time, the end of the summer for drum corps, it's like the sand going through the hourglass. You're running out of time to make everything perfect. And they were able to kind of do that. And I think the end result was something that was really special. And it was so well received. And it was a testament to, that was our second year of working together. And there was a lot of trust, that had to go into that. Mm-hmm. And then last year was awesome. I mean, last year was our, probably our most talented drum corps, incredibly demanding show. And again, the guard was spectacular. We took a lot of risk in 2019. I think the coordination of the show, the design team, we're getting those walls designed and put in place in October and November. We went to multiple theater companies. We had them professionally designed. They were really thinking and designing, concepts of that show really, really early on. And then the back end, the administrative part, the prop team that we had was so elevated because we had learned from 17 to 18, what it takes to do it successfully. So, last year was a lot of fun. And I think that, the core, really came out on that opening cinema show night, presented itself as a really, really strong drum corps. And we had some competitive success. We went back and forth a little bit with Crown, and that's a really fantastic drum corps. So, I think I said at the DCI meetings with the Dan Potter interview, I said, look, when you're competing with Crown legitimately, at least you're close every night, and maybe you beat them twice. I go, I think they've averaged top 3 for 10 years, and they've won a championship. Mm-hmm. So I go, we're kind of putting ourselves into a whole new conversation. So that Goliath corps, did a really great job. That's the highest score we'd ever had at finals. So even though we slipped from whatever it was, 5th to 6th place, it was, for what we're doing, evaluating us against our long-term goals. We went in and had a great summer on and off the field, had a really entertaining, show, and, scored our highest score ever at Drum Corps International Championships in 19. So, all 3 of those corps over those last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And, building on what you said about how Crown were like going back and forth at the beginning last year, I'm pretty sure y'all beat Crown at their own home show, which is just like remarkable, saying how Boston placed 12th in 2016 and is now beating Crown, which is a perennial medalist. And just building on that, I really think that Boston has a shot at a championship this decade. What do you think is in store for them this decade?
Look, I hope so. I mean, there are a lot of things that go into ultimately, winning a championship. I think it's just like sports. You've got to have the management, you've got to have the front office, you've got to have the coach, you've got to have the talent on the floor ultimately. And then you got to get a little bit lucky too, because, you have to peak at the right time. The chemistry has to be right. I think we're doing all the right things. And certainly, in a competitive activity, I think you should say you want to win. And we're not afraid to say that. That being said, I think it's really tough. And it's certainly a goal of ours. But we want to also do it the right way. We want to make sure that off the field we continue to evolve. But I like your thinking. I think we're heading in the right direction. And, I have a lot of confidence in the design team that is here. I think they're brilliant and they're very good at what they do. And the teaching team is equally accomplished. And, we continue to be blessed with talent. Yeah, I mean, I think things are trending that way. And if you had to ask me, who's the next drum corps to be a first-time world champion, I'd say us. Why not?
Yeah.
But we have a process to get there. It's going to take time. I think that's one thing that I've learned over these 3 years, that there's a whole nother level for us to go, and it's going to be a lot of fun getting there. And we kind of have to enjoy the process too. So that's very important for marching pageantry, high school, drum corps. You have these long-term goals. But you have to make sure that, you're enjoying that day in, day out rehearsal. And I think this summer is a perfect example of not taking anything for granted. And speaking with you guys, I mean, at one point you pretty much got notice to come get your books and school shut down.
Yeah.
You didn't have that opportunity for that spring concert or that WGI evaluation, although those things that you're looking forward to so much, it's human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think with what you said, just with the Boston Crusaders being one of these corps that's kind of on the upswing now, and whatever changes will come to the activity, I think just seeing one more corps get up to that high level is just a great thing overall for the whole activity. Last question for you. What would you tell high school students about marching in drum corps and why they should consider marching at the Boston Crusaders?
Well, I'm a strong proponent, of drum corps, the activity, because I think it's for kids who love band, kids who love marching band, that it's, it's sort of their thing, right? It's what gets them up out of bed every weekend, and they love going to practice, and They love pushing themselves. And, when you it's a natural, progression to want to go to a place where everyone who is there is like that. That's the mentality, right? And that's what drum corps provides at open class level, at the world class level. You're around people who sort of view marching band and marching pageantry like you do. And it's a great place for your fundamental skills to jump to a whole new level, because it doesn't matter how accomplished you are. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter if you're going to the Boston Crusaders or the Blue Devils or an open class corps. When you get there, you start all over again, and you start to break down fundamentals, posture, breathing, hand placement, long tones and flexibilities for brass. They really hone in on those areas where maybe you have a deficiency, or you took a shortcut, or just something you didn't want to deal with. But it's also the sort of the grit aspect, the stick-to-itiveness that you get from committing to doing something in drum corps. Why Boston? I think there's something special about the fact that we're a legacy drum corps. We were celebrating our 80th anniversary this year. So there's a huge alumni base that has just an unconditional, love and support. But at the same time, I think we're pretty fresh and modern, with our approach, which I think is appealing to, younger people and people looking to march drum corps. And I think you hit upon it earlier too. It's if you want to come and be part of something and build something that's going to probably be, at some point we are going to come in our highest placement ever. At some point we're going to medal. At some point, we're going to hopefully win a DCI championship. And it's pretty cool to be able to help elevate a legacy corps to that kind of position. So, I think that, there's a lot of great drum corps to march, but that legacy drum corps that has a real, chance at continuing to climb and trend upwards makes us, pretty unique. And I think it's appealing. I know that, some of these shows that we performed, and that's part of the reason, I targeted, the organization wanted Keith Potter. Like, we wanted an incredible storyteller at the very top of our artistic design and production.
Yeah.
Who can kind of create these shows that resonate with people, with young people, with old people, with drum corps fans. Even if you don't like dance, and even if you don't like electronics, and even if you don't like B-flat instruments, it's undeniable. We got those people on their feet. You get swept up in the moment. You might go, man, I hate all the props, but then the fire goes up and you go, wow, that's pretty cool though. So, I credit him a lot, and it's not an accident. We talk very deliberately about, what kind of shows do we need to do to continue to attract, talented performers to come and want to march here. And he has done that throughout his career. I mean, there's some iconic shows that Carolina Crown did that obviously, Keith was part of the architecture scheme there in terms of putting those shows together. So there's a reason we wanted to bring him here and allow him to kind of, do it in a whole new fashion with us. And it's paid off. I think the shows that we have are very memorable. Yep. And that's, I think speaking to the high school students and the college students who are eligible to march drum corps, I think they know those shows. Like, they probably know Wicked Games, and they know SOS, and, they know it by name, and they know it by sight. And if you showed them an image, they know it. And hopefully, if they want to march drum corps, they view Boston as a place that they know they're going to do a really cool show. They're going to have a unique look. There's going to be some breathtaking moments, and we continue to add, like I said, levels of complexity and musicality and technical skill where hopefully we have it all. If you're a great brass player, you go, man, those guys play a great book. Ryan George is a great young composer. I want to go play there. And I love the way Gino's horn line sounds. And I want to play trumpet for Steve Bentley. And, or if you're in the guard, you go, boy, Heather Graham and Michael Townsend. Like, that's kind of what we were trying to create here. And I think in all of those areas, in percussion with, Colin McNutt and his team, if you want to play, physically and you want to move and you want to play with a huge dynamic range and take a lot of risk. I think I've kind of mentioned that in the 2019 Goliath. I mean, we marched 10 snares.
Yep.
And I remember Colin said, you know what? Like, it's Goliath, man. Like, we got to go 10. And, it's a risk because, 10's a lot of snares to clean. But it wasn't about, that didn't drive the decision. It was more conceptual. It was more, I believe we can do it. I think it calls for it, and let's go after it. And, if we stumble because of it, it's not going to be because we're afraid to take a chance. You're not going to do anything great. You're not going to win a championship by being afraid, to take a chance.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And I know that we're all looking forward to, what comes next with marching band for the fall. It's coming fast. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around it, but, one thing we do know is that, musicians and arts folks are incredibly resilient, and we're going to find a way to kind of power through this. And this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. So, we have to stay positive, and we have to, kind of, understand that, that we're going to come out of this. And when we do, think about just the elation and the joy you're going to have, the new found, joy you will have to open up the band room. Some of the things we took for granted, and, to clean the equipment and to do the inventory and just to be able to get back to doing what it is we love to do. We're going to get there. And I know there's uncertainty out there, but, whatever this fall looks like on the marching band scene, make the most of it. Let's not make an excuse, even if it's a modified type of environment that you're in. You can still, be the best you can be. You can still help the people around you get acclimated to the music program if you're in a leadership position. And the same thing with drum corps. We're doing everything we can to make sure that, we get back to doing what it is we love to do. And we have, large stadiums that we can get in and perform in front of, and, get people up on their feet and, keep taking this activity to the next level.
Thank you so much to Chris Holland for taking time out of his week to chat with us. It's much appreciated. Now we're going to stay on the topic of the Boston Crusaders and talk a little bit about our thoughts on their past few productions. First off, 2017, Wicked Games. They move up from 12th in 2016. They finished 6th in 2017. What were some of our thoughts on that 6th place production in 2017?
Wicked Games, in my opinion, really revolutionized what Boston's identity was. They're coming out here with like pyrotechnics, everything like fire and smoke, and it was just so so innovative, and everything just seemed to flow.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I think it just showed it created an identity for Boston, and for that first year as a top drum corps, that they kind of had that show that revolved around the Boston area, and really just showed their identity. Sam, you have any thoughts on that show?
I think Wicked Games definitely showed us that the staff changes were definitely changing the group for the better, and that it was going to be a new Boston from then forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just what happened in 17 with that show would just lead into 18 and 19, the success they would have then. In 5th and 18, they're tied for their highest finish ever. And SOS, what'd you guys think about that show?
SOS even flowed even better, Everything just seemed to fit perfectly. The music was amazing. It wasn't over the top, but it wasn't underestimating anything, which means, I honestly liked it. It's one of my favorite Boston shows, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Sam?
I definitely like SOS. I thought it was a step up from Wicked Games, which is a very hard thing to achieve.
Yeah.
I liked how everything fit together, like how Thomas said. It's all very well put together and just made sense.
Yeah, and the 19, and actually I'll say a little about 18 real quick. That drum break, since the Sense of Maya drum break, that's definitely up there as one of my favorites, at least of recent years. And then 19, which would probably definitely be my favorite Boston show of all time, if not one of my favorite shows of recent years. Goliath, and just the big, large, gigantic props. What's your opinions on Goliath?
Just musically, how they like incorporated "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" and basically like show is just like phenomenal, And even they were adding stuff into the show come prelims night, with them adding the "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" melody in the closer, which
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that SOS was just a little bit better, but Goliath is definitely my favorite BAC show.
Yeah. Sam?
I liked Goliath a lot. It was really well put together, and especially arrangement wise. And I think they had the horn line to pull it off, but the visual was a little too far.
Yeah.
Like they were gunning for a good brass and good visual, but they couldn't do both. They couldn't do both at the level they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, and you could think back to last year, like with the concert in the park, back in mid-June last year, and everybody saw that video that's put out there, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna medal, they're gonna win," and it was a good show. Like, as I said, one of my favorites, but just never really got up to. They did defeat Crown at one point, but it never really got up there to mess with BD Blue or SCV last year.
I do think if the drill had been easier, they could have scored higher.
Yeah, and just dumb it down a little bit more. One last thing on the Boston Crusaders. What would you guys' favorite pre-2017 show be? Especially in that like 13 to 16 area.
I would really have to say 2013. Rise was, I don't know, so innovative for me. I just liked it a lot.
Yeah. Sam?
I would also agree with Rise. I really liked how the ending was only a finals specific ending. That was a very nice touch on their part.
Yeah. I'd say 13's definitely good. I like the uniforms that year were great. And I know what I'm about to say is a pretty unpopular opinion, but 2016 I actually don't have much against. I think I like the musical selections and how it kind of played in the program. It definitely isn't like one of my favorite shows ever or anything, but it still was a decent top 12 show for that year.
Yeah.
So now to our rapid fire segment, where our hosts will provide a little rapid fire answer to 4 different questions we've come up with. First of those is, what year do you guys think brought the most change to drum corps within the 2010s? Thomas first.
I'm going to say 2016. I'm going to say Downside Up really revolutionized everything. That show was just so motivational. Well, not motivational to like the fans, but like motivational to other corps to step out of their box and do something new and innovative. And showed, I really think, just it changed the identity of drum corps forever. Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Sam?
I'm going to say 2012 because Blue Devils really solidified that they weren't going to change for the fans or the fans' opinions of what their show designs. So it really solidified that the Blue Devils were going to keep doing what they wanted to do.
For me on this, I'm going to have to say somewhere between 2017 and 2019, right in there, is when this majority of the changes happened. I think, yes, this happened on the field with props and intricate show designs and stuff, but also off the field with how corps are run and just enhancing the member experience and the staff experience and the fan experience at the end of the day, I think has really changed even more than the stuff on the field year in and year out. All right, next question. What is our favorite Blue Devils ballad of recent years?
Oh, that's a tough one. That really is. Metamorph. I know people will get onto them about Standing in Place, and I honestly liked it, but it's not my favorite. My favorite would have to be Ghost Lights. I think that ballad was just so musical, and I really liked it.
I really liked 2019 as well, but 2018 hits something else for me.
Yeah.
It just fits the theme well, and it works what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I'll say the same. 2018 would probably be my favorite. 2017's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but 2018, just the Natural Woman ballad's just another level from those other ones. All right, now kind of play this show or that show. Two shows that finished in medaling positions. Santa Clara Vanguard 2017 with Ouroboros, or the Cadets in 2011 with Angels and Demons. What show would we prefer out of those two?
That's tough. I'm not really that big of a fan on Cadets 2011. I mean, it's an okay show. It's not my favorite. And Ouroboros was also okay. Actually, the first show I ever saw live.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'd probably have to say Ouroboros just because it was such a different theme that I liked it so much. And the music was okay, and you can see a lot of what Babylon was. Basically, Babylon was post Ouroboros, and Boxing Versio was post Babylon. They're basically all the same show, but different
but with a different feel to each one. Sam?
I'm going to have to disagree and go with Angels and Demons, mainly because I really like how everything fits into the theme of light versus dark, all the symmetrical and asymmetrical drill, all the writing as well, the choosing of specifically pieces that have two clashing parts, like such as 160 BPM, that just works so well.
Yeah, I'm going to say Vanguard 2017, and that's just simply because it's hard for me to get attached to shows I did see 2011 live, but that I wasn't like fully there for. Just older shows I don't get attached to as much as recent ones. But 2017 Vanguard, I love that, and Angels and Demons, I think it's special because of how it kind of it had its own new feel to it, that WGI feel to it. And I just think that was cool, and that was one of the first scores to do that in their show. All right, last one, Crossman 2016 with Continuum, or Blue Stars 2018 with The Once and Future Carpenter?
I have to go with Blue Stars 2018. That show was just so Blue Star-ish. Like, they've been coming out with a bunch of fan favorite shows for the past couple of years. You can go last year with Call of the Wild. That show was nice. 2018 was also another good show. I honestly say that Blue Stars are a sleeper core that you should not sleep on.
Yeah. Sam?
I agree with that as well. I really liked Once and Future Carpenter.
Yeah, I'll probably say the same. It was. I'll say it's definitely probably a better show overall, like from technicality standpoints. But Crossman 2016 could definitely be one of their best shows of the past few seasons. Yes, 17, 18, 19 are good, but 16 was kind of a new identity a little bit for the Crossmen. I might be wrong in this, but it was the first year where they went to a different uniform than the kind of traditional one they've just been tweaking. And the Continuum, it's all original music by Andrew Merkworth, which I just find is amazing, because not a lot of shows, especially at that finalist level, are just original music. It's always arrangements of other pieces, and just to see a show that's just original music, I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And with that brings us to a close of our first episode of the summer. Another big thanks to Chris Holland for coming on to do the interview with us this week. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Showday Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay safe and have a great day.